Divination cards, angel cards, oracle cards, tarot, all kinds of cards. That's what we are going to talk about today, and I'm so lucky that next to me is my partner Scylla, and she's an expert on this. As you know, if you have followed us, the last two podcasts we had was about astrology, where I talked a hell of a lot. Today, Scylla will talk a hell of a lot.
I don't know if I'll talk a hell of a lot, but we will definitely talk about divination. And so this whole podcast here is about how actually I got started with tarot cards and oracle cards, and then how I think it's one of the best tools that you can actually use to build your intuition. And that's kind of what I want to convey as we go along with the story. So I'll start with how my journey started with the tarot cards. So I don't know, in the first episode I told you guys that I was very, I'm into a spiritual family. We talked a lot about, being from Brazil, we talked a lot about spirits and, the unseen world. But interesting enough, my grandma was the only one that was truly psychic in my family. She could pick out things clairvoyantly. She could see with her third eye things that would possibly happen in the future. Actually, she did quite often. And so she became like the go-to person in our family when things were going, quote unquote, the wrong direction, or something was, we needed more information, and we always went to her for certain things. And so she definitely became the, I don't like the word shaman, but she became that person to us. Sure. Everybody went to her for advice, sage advice, especially. And she was really good at what she did. So she did not use cards. So what happened to me was when I was a teenager, so I got started at 14 years old. And to tell you the truth, I remember when I first bought my tarot cards, but I can't describe it then other I had this inkling. I mean, deep down, that I needed to learn about these cards and these tarot cards. And I was already into the metaphysical world. I was reading lots of books on psychics and Sylvia Browne and James Van Praagh. Those are the ones that I was like already reading by the time all this was happening around me. And that interest just kept peaking, and I was like, all right, I must find some kind of deck, and I want to learn this tool. So this is in the 90s when, there's still Blockbuster. Well, back in Idaho, there's this little store called Hastings. So that's where people went to go rent movies. And they had all kinds of metaphysical stuff too, which was really weird because it was such a weird store, had video games. Anyways. So I wasn't going in there to get the cards. I was actually going there to get a movie. So funny enough, as I was trying to get this movie, I was in the counter, and this tarot deck just like got my attention. And it wasn't the Raider classic tarot deck either. It was a different type, but it was the artwork that drew me to it. And I was like, everything about my body, I was like, must get this. So I got that, and I was so excited. So what happened was I started using the cards on my family, on my friends, and the tarot is very, it is subjective, but it's also, there's a lot of details to it. And, if you were going to start out, I would honestly tell the readers to start out with oracle cards instead, because they're about the same thing, except the tarot goes more in depth, and it is a study. People study this art.
But what are the oracle cards? When you say that, I think a lot of people won't know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, so the oracle cards are like tarot. They go through the what we call the hero's journey. They still have this process of like a person going through the stages of life, of like being this innocent, like the Fool card, for example, is when somebody's in that innocence phase of starting something new with bright ideas, no judgments, everything to them is new. And it kind of goes through that process of, going, it just tells the journey of the human being and the soul evolution. So tarot cards does that plus some. They give you, I mean, it has astrology included in it if you're really,
Sure.
I mean, it has a lot of symbolism, a lot. And so it takes a long time. If you just want to study it, it takes a long time to do it. But here's the kicker. You don't have to like be this master tarot card, you don't have to pick a book and read it page to page. You can just play with it,
Sure.
So the oracle cards are, how do I say this? They're less, how do I say this? They're just less symbolic in a way. They don't have all these symbolisms that you have to just keep looking for.
But less black and white, perhaps. Less.
They're less condensed too.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they don't. The tarot card goes through a lot. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's just simpler for me. It's a simple type. It's like the tarot cards are condensed in oracle decks, and they're simpler too, much simpler, and you can learn them faster. And I think they're.
But if you were to recommend a cards, anything to anyone who just started, what would you recommend?
Yeah, like for example, Colette Baron Reed has amazing oracle decks.
Okay.
That's to be the first ones I would suggest to start. Or John Holland has, actually he has a psychic tarot deck, but that's also an oracle deck. So it's interesting, and you can just start. And it's user friendly. They have booklets.
Sure.
And they can tell you what each card means, and vice versa. So when I first started doing reading tarot cards, what happened to me was I was journaling as I was giving out readings to my family and friends, and also to myself. I was using myself as a guinea pig half the time. Actually, the majority of the time. That's how I became such a fast learner. Because what I recommend people, if they really want to get their intuition to open up or just honed in, journaling is a must when doing divination with oracle cards or tarot cards, because then everything is hindsight when it comes to prophecy and when it comes to divination. Why do I say this? Because whatever you're getting in the present moment, if it's truly what you're getting and your intuition is right and the cards are right, then it's going to happen. So it's good that you have a journaling system to where you can look back like, oh my God, this is what this said. This is what this means.
Yeah.
So you can have the confidence to do that for yourself. And use yourself as the guinea pig. That's what I did. And it's truly amazing. So the one thing I do tell people is, number one, pick the deck that resonates with you. To me, the artwork was what was resonating with me on the covers. There's different metaphysical stores that actually have them on display. And you can look at all of them. You can touch them, so you got to get a feel for them. So that's how I would just introduce people to that. And the other thing is, it's just really trust your cards. I mean, trust them. Just have this openness to them. Don't have judgment on them, because the beginner's mind is the most amazing tool for a divination expert, because you have to get yourself out of the way. You really do. If you start over analyzing everything you're getting on these cards, you're not gonna do very well.
You're gonna trust your intuition, of course.
But that's the thing. This is the whole point to this. This is about your intuition, not over analyzing and going into the thinking mode. So to start off, it's definitely trust the deck. Trust that what cards are on the table, what's coming out, write them down, and just have a beginner's mind to it. Don't put any judgment to it, because that's a quicker way for you to definitely dive into that world. So with tarot cards, I mean, Peter's played with cards as well.
Yeah, I gotta tell a little story, perhaps, just a short one. So when I was 30, I started off with astrology, which I've talked about in some of the other podcasts. And at one point, like a lot of other people, I got very fascinated with the tarot. So I got a deck. And then after a month or two where I had used it a bit along with astrology just to try it out, I had a dream, a very strong dream, that I dropped my cards and people were walking all over the cards. And I woke up and I knew immediately, this is not for me. And it's only within the last 3 or 4 years I've started to use cards. But not like Scylla. Scylla does it professionally. I have used them to get inspiration when I need to make a decision. I've used them just for myself. Sometimes I've also used it if I wanted info about other people. And the way I use them are very simple. That I simply only take one card. And I want that card to tell me and to set off my own intuition about something. Mm-hmm. So cards are not for me in a professional sense. But they have helped me quite a bit on a personal level. And they still do. They still do. I do take cards on something maybe twice a week, and I have never experienced they are wrong.
Yeah, as Peter was saying, I do this professionally, so that's part of my business as an energy healer and a psychic intuitive. I use the cards to help people when they, are either at a crossroads to have a question, they need clarity. That's exactly where I help people, is with this.
I also want to add, you said that your grandmother was the only one with downright psychic ability in your family. That is, of course, bullshit. Because you have it as well. You obviously have it as well. Trust me, I know.
Okay, so backtracking. Yes, I have it, but we will talk about this at another podcast, because what has been going on with me in the beginning when I was younger, I still have my empathic skills set. I feel a lot, especially as an energy healer. And my younger days, I had the clairvoyant. I still do, but not as I did back then. I had the clairvoyant skill of just having those movies play in my third eye and see things happen. What's changed for me now that at this stage is that my clairvoyance has taken a back seat, and now I'm getting more the deep knowing, but I'm hearing more. Right. Which is a clairaudience, but we'll talk more about that. So sure. Yes, I do have that. You're right. I should correct myself. I do have those skills. It's just that my grandma was just a phenomenal lady, and I just wanted to give her that, because she definitely, she wowed a lot of people. Yeah. And she would give out these readings that, first of all, she'll just tell you, and you didn't even ask. And, there is a point in time I was like, Grandma, I don't want to know these things. Like, you're telling me stuff I didn't even ask about, and,
So she's listening in here.
Yeah, she scared me a little bit, too, with all the stuff she used to know. But back to the cards. The funny thing is, Peter, you had a dream about them, and so did I. My dream was, when I first got the tarot cards that I got from that Hastings stores when I was 14 years old, I was asking for a type of signal or sign that these were good for me. That was on the right path. And believe it or not, it was quite amazing. My dream had me, I saw myself on a lawn somewhere doing a tarot card spread. Uh-huh. But every card was face down, so I didn't see what the meaning was. But what's interesting is that there were crystals that were on the top of the deck, and they were spinning like crazy, like by themselves. So I knew that they were potent. That was a clear message for me, that they are magical, they're potent, they had that vibe to them.
Sure.
So that was interesting, because that was the dream I actually had that gave me the confirmation I was in the right direction with these things. So I don't have any, quite honestly, I don't have any bad vibes with people that use tarot cards or divination. I just think it's a tool. All these things that people say, that, oh, you're a witch, or it's devil's work. I don't believe none of that nonsense. I never have. To me, they're just a tool to use, especially when you need clarity. The one good thing about cards that that's why saying journaling will help your self-confidence, but everything's hindsight. So you can see exactly what each card was conveying at the time that you did the reading, and also your own intuition. So just take that card, look at it, see what comes up for you first before you go to the book and actually read. Because you'll be surprised. You're going to probably get the same type of symbolisms or feelings or intuitive hits. So it's been a fascinating path for me. The one thing I do have to tell people when they first start, though, to use cards is that once you pick that deck, it's important that you make it your own. So what I mean by that is, take it out of the packaging, clear them. So either make it through sage or incense, and just start putting your energy. So just really start playing with the cards with your hands, putting your energy into the deck. And the other thing you have to also do, like I said, it's important that you get yourself out of the way when you do an intuitive reading, so your mind is not monkey mind.
Sure.
So I have to say this because I have done this before and it's always been a mistake. Don't ever get a tarot card when you're about to do the reading when it comes from a sense of urgency, where you're panicked, where you're freaking out, where you're like, I must know, because the cards will mirror that emotion for you. They do. It's crazy. They will show you, hey, it'll show you that you are freaking out. And you're going to get freaked out because this thing's freaking you out because you just got a bad card. So what I'm trying to tell everybody this, that you have to really be,
grounded.
Grounded is the word. Exactly. Thank you, Peter. You can't go in there like, I'm freaking out. I must know what to do, because it's going to start mirroring your own emotions. And then you're just going to get a contaminated reading of your own emotions.
Sure.
So, and I know that has happened to you.
It has.
And that has happened to me as well.
Yeah.
it did not help at all. It just confirmed that I was writing in a mess, and and that was because of my own feelings. So yes, they do mirror a lot of what's going on with you. So tarot cards are great for situations like obviously you're asking about the future, obviously for a relationship or a person, but they also, I tell people this, that's why journaling is important, is that it also tells you what's going on right now that is most important to you at this moment. So sometimes you're not going to get what you want from the cards.
Right.
And,
they won't answer.
Sometimes they won't answer, and what they're wanting you to do is look at what the heck the current situation is that's more important at the moment. So there's that as well. And you will know, because you'll know right off the bat, well, this doesn't really answer my question. So then the cards are, really pointing at you, hey, there's something more important here that you need to look at, because it's energy. And that's the thing with cards, divination tools. All they're really doing, this magic woo-woo stuff that everybody likes, like, oh my God. All it really is, people, is just an energy forecast. Just like you go see a weatherman, give out the forecast of it's going to be sunny tomorrow, rainy tomorrow, storms and whatever. It's the same thing with cards. Cards give you an energy forecast of what is going on and what's coming up. So, why do I say that that's important? Because a lot of people fixate on, oh my God, if I don't like something, these cards are saying I can't change it. That's not true. They're just showing you the potentials. They're showing you the possibilities and potentials of what's most likely going to happen. As you know, especially here in Oregon, the weatherman gets the weather wrong almost all the time. Right? Okay. So you go in with, okay, it might not rain tomorrow, but if I don't like it, at least I'm prepared for this situation. I can change the situation. With cards, you can change the situation if you don't like where it's headed. You always have your free will choice to do that. So
what helped me, when I've taken cards for myself and the few times I've done it for other people, is also, and I mean, you are actually saying that, I'm just trying to say this in a different way, that not to think of the answers as being absolute, meaning that if I ask whether it's a good idea for me to go back to Denmark in a certain period, something that I've done sometimes, it will give me an answer that shows the energy of what will happen. It doesn't necessarily tell me, and actually should not tell me, yes, go, or no, don't. But it shows the energy, and I think that's very important. So if you get a so-called negative card, you might want to rethink if that's a good idea. But you shouldn't look at it as if, you shouldn't give all the power away to cards and say, okay, my cards told me not to go.
Right.
So, and that is a very important. I think that's very important to know.
It like I said, it shows you
the forecast.
Yes, and the possibilities.
Yeah.
The strongest possibilities in the future that are likely to happen. But that's the thing, you can always change your course, you know?
Sure.
And like you said, I wouldn't want to be wearing flip-flops if I know it's going to be, you know,
exactly.
snowing outside.
Yeah.
So that's how I come to get a lot of respect from these cards. I trust them when I'm asking a question. And you have to know how to ask a question. You know, you got to ask empowering questions to these cards because they're going to show you clarity. They're going to show you the possibilities. So it's important that you are detailed also in your question, you know, not just leave it half-assed, I guess.
I think another point that's incredibly important, I mean, you would take it for granted because it's your work, but it's very important that you take it seriously. I mean, if you're taking a card because you're bored, if you're taking a card because, it could be kind of fun to know about this, then it won't work for you. You have to take it seriously. So, like everything else in life, intent is very important.
Exactly. It is. Intention is very important. Thank you for that. And, you know, it's one of those things that, like I said, it's easier to use yourself when you're first starting as you go, because you will learn a lot faster. I'm not joking. If you start journaling this process, if you're even interested in any of this stuff and you're just a beginner, do that with yourself because it will help you with your own intuition. It will help you with that own gut instinct or deep knowing that you have already about the subject matter. You know what I mean? But you will get better the more you can look back at those notes and be like, oh, okay. Not only that, then you start really understanding what those cards mean or the alternate meanings of those cards as well as you go.
It's almost like, isn't it, because that's the way I look at it, that you establish a vocabulary, your vocabulary.
Your own vocabulary.
And I mean, I do the same with life as such, life in general, that you know, the natives, that the Aboriginals called it the speaking land, that even if you just take a walk in the morning and you kind of want to make a decision about something in your life, you start seeing, without being fanatical, you start seeing everything as symbolism. And I mean, a man like Robert Moss, who talks not necessarily about divination, but talks a lot about symbolism and dreams, it's like, if you're in that consciousness where you are totally alive and alert, then life as such becomes your divination deck. Mm-hmm. You take a walk and the first thing you see that is out of the ordinary will actually almost works like a card. Let me give you a small example I had that had nothing to do with cards, but still does. That I was waiting for something back home about my career. An interview that would be very good for my writing career, and it's a writer who's wanted to do that for years, and she just wrote me that she would do it now, and I thought of that, being in a fairly meditative state when I was walking down the street, and the second I thought about that, I saw a snail, and I knew immediately what that meant. That meant it would still take a while because snails aren't fast. And it was like uncanny. Mm-hmm. And to me, that was the same as going up there and taking a divination card. The second I thought of, I hope that interview is gonna go through. That would be good for my career right now. I saw a snail and I know, it will happen, but definitely not now.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the tarot cards or oracle cards, is that it opens you up to that unseen world. It opens you up for sure.
Yes.
And you'll get the confidence, but then you start getting sensitive if that's even the correct word I really want to hone into. Yeah, your sensitivity will increase for sure. Why do I say that? Because exactly what you said.
Your awareness.
Your awareness,
Yeah.
the synchronicities of life will start being more obvious to you.
Amen.
And, and many people have said, well, if you, and they have said this to me before, and it's like, well, if you're psychic and you're intuitive, why do you need your cards? I said, I actually don't need my cards. I just love them. Meaning, I love the tool. I just like the tool. I like to use the tool. To me, it's fun. To me, I love the artwork. They just speak to me. So I do have a lot of friends that are intuitive as well, and they don't need the cards, and nor do I. But it's just this tool that I just love dearly, and it has helped me throughout my life. And
you have no idea how many cards Scylla has.
I kind of have an
82,
obsession.
86.
Yeah, at least I'm not a gambler with those.
250.
It's not shoe fetish. I'm not,
Yeah. No, you don't have that many, but you just like them.
No,
you like them.
I do collect cards.
You like them.
Yeah, I even have. Even right now at my house, I have all the, some of the tarot decks. Just
it's okay. It's
yeah,
okay.
It's all good. They're just my shoe thing.
Damn right.
It's all good. But yeah, I want to also give you guys two real life stories of myself with cards.
Sure.
So one of them, it's interesting because the last 2 years I had this big epiphany that I needed to really get out of the work I was in. And I was at my current work at the time for 10 years. And everybody knew that I was not happy. I needed an out. I've been there too long. I just needed something new. I needed a change of scenery. And since it was still in the medical field and laboratory, which I still do part-time, by the way, but just much different than what I used to do. It's just, I needed that change, but I was so scared, nor did I really know what the heck to do, how I was going to do this and all this. So these cards actually helped me when I asked. I did ask the question, what is the potential for me having a new job? What direction? How's it going to look like? I kind of left the cards open just because when I leave the cards open, once again, I'm just leaving them to tell me the story of the possibilities, right? So in this scenario, I asked, okay, I'm leaving the cards open about my career, my possible next career move, how that's going to look like. And the cards, one of them specifically said, moving on, walking away. I was like, well, that's interesting. And then this oracle deck is kind of cool. It has the seasons. It has, summer, fall, winter, spring. So it kind of gives you a time frame, which is, most intuitives have to rely on their own time sense, which is really hard to do, by the way, with anything with intuitive information. And that card actually said winter time. Well, I was like, I asked this around fall. So I was like, oh my gosh, if it says winter as my end result and I'm moving and it says walking away, I was like, well, it looks like winter. I'm going to just be walking away from this, right? Sure. I was like, I'm journaling this down. I'm like, well, that, didn't tell me what other job. It just said kind of the possibilities.
Yeah.
Well, sure enough, I asked, and I journaled this, so I knew. I journaled back in October this. By January, I already left my job. So it did confirm that I, walked away from the job, and in January, in winter, I was completely done with it. So that was something that gave me comfort, too, because I was kind of nervous as to when or how it all was going to work out. But my intuition did confirm everything was going to be okay. It was just more like how and the when of things, right?
Yeah.
And that helped me tremendously. Did you have one that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I have a funny one. This is not necessarily the most important. Actually, it's definitely not the most important. I have some cards that are fairly rare. They are Mahjong cards, but Mahjong divination cards. And they are really, really good. And of course, when you say they're really, really good, they are all good because it depends on you taking it seriously. Because if you take it seriously...
And you trust the cards.
And you trust the cards, they work. And also if you're not an idiot and ask things like, should I leave John tomorrow? Because then the card will give you the energy of it. It won't tell you whether you should leave somebody or not. Yeah. Just another reminder of how to use the cards. But okay, so I want to tell the story because it's fun, but it also shows how precise those cards are very, very often. I was gonna go traveling with my ex, and this is like many years ago, and she couldn't find her passport. That's pretty important when you are when you are going when you're going away. So she went through the whole house, and I helped her to try to find her passport. And I actually thought it was kind of funny because I'm usually the one who, lose things, and I'm the one who's absent-minded, and she couldn't find him. And then I said, let's take a Mahjong card on where your passport is, and also whether you should get a new one, because we were getting close to the deadline that she needed. I mean, if she, you need a passport when you go abroad. So she agreed, and we took a card, and I don't remember what the card was called, but what I do remember vividly is it was a card for math. Among other things, it was a card for mathematics. So when she saw that, she was into math, and she had math books, and she lit up. She went straight to the math books she had. They were like very big, and she opened them, and you could almost tell that she knew her passport somehow would be in those math books, and it wasn't. And then she got very disappointed, and so did I. And then she kind of gave up, and she go, okay, well, I better get a new passport. She went to a computer, and then she did something she'd done at least 10 times before. She lifted up the keyboard, because she often put important stuff under the keyboard. Incidentally, a keyboard has a lot of numbers. And her passport was below, and it had always been there, but there was a magnet, so it was, it was kept on the magnet, so you could actually lift it and look at the table, and it wasn't there. But if you just looked up under the keyboard, so the cards were 100% correct. The cards told you that the solution had to do with numbers. And I mean, this is not the most impressive story I can think of, but it is the most fun to talk about, because sometimes those cards are unbelievably specific.
Yeah. You just reminded me of a really good one about that happened to me with my cards. And, I do this for a living, so I have amazing stories. But this one, since it happened to me personally, I can talk about. I have a hard time talking about other people's, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
So this one was really, really awesome. And I'm not amazed, but yet I am amazed of how divination works, the oracle cards work, and universe energy in general. So after I left this 10-year job and I was looking for my career, and as the cards that I told you in the past said I was going to walk away from the job, I actually did. I only had 5 months of savings that I was going to give myself this break to figure myself out, to figure out what else I was going to do, what else do I want to do, with my next endeavor. But I had enough savings for 5 months. Well, I just was like, okay, Peter could tell you, I was elated that I had this break, but also was like very scared about money. I was kind of like always thinking about money in a way, and that was to my detriment. And so by like the month, I knew I had a month and a half left of savings left. And I was like, oh my gosh, and I have no other job to fall back on. I was like, Priscilla needs to figure her stuff out. And I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? What's going on here? I got to, ask for clarity. And so I grabbed my cards, and I was just leaving it open for possible information of the month, because I actually do monthly cards for myself just to see the monthly forecast, which has been one of the best ways I've learned on myself, is to do monthly cards and see, like, just to leave them open, see if the energies, Yeah, so it's interesting. Yeah. It's really fun as well. So it's like almost get my own monthly report. So that month, it was April, and I was like, it said, my card spoke to me about surprise, gift, and it said angelic help. And I was like, well, wow, these are pretty good. Angelic help? surprise. I'm like, I have a good feeling to this. But I was asking about, my money situation as well. And that month I was asking about my money situation because I knew I was running out of my savings and I needed to find the next thing I got to do with my job or career. But looking at those cards, it was almost like the universe was inviting me to just, hey, you're okay. Don't worry about it. Some divine intervention is going to happen. So I didn't know what the surprise was going to be. I had no clue, but I was still worried about money. So, 3 weeks go by. I'm not really thinking of anything. And then I remember I was checking my mail, and then I got this envelope from the state of Oregon. Okay, people, I have a letter from the state of Oregon with my ex-husband's name in mind, which, by the way, just threw me in for like, oh my God, what could possibly this be? Because I've been divorced for like 4 years. I was like, this is not good. What? And I started freaking out. I freaked out. I called Peter. I'm like, oh my God, I just got this letter. It has his name on it. This could not be good. What is he going to take me to court? What's going on? And Peter's like, well, calm down. You know what? Did you read it yet? I was like, I opened the letter, by the way, but I just read state of Oregon, my name, ex's name. Like, I was just more in my drama mind. And Peter's like, all right, well, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I need to read this. He's like, all right, call me later. I'm like, okay. So I was upset. I was so angry. Well, I read the letter, folks, and the letter actually said that my home insurance, or the state was withheld my house insurance for the last 4 years because they couldn't find me. And so that check was like for $525. And I'm like, oh my God, I just got $525 money. I got money, and I was pleasantly surprised, and it came out of the blue. I had no clue I was going to get this money back, So that helped me out, that $525, even though that's maybe not a lot for some people. It was a lot for me.
No, of course.
Yeah.
Come on. Everybody would be pleased.
Yeah, I was ecstatic. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you, universe. Thank you for helping me. I had no clue I had this money coming. That was 4 years ago. It took that long, so the state had to try to find me to collect the money. And here I'm thinking, worst case scenario, that I was going, whatever. So that I was so surprised. And my cards did say exactly what that was. Angelic help. They gave me, me help with money. And it was a total surprise out of the blue.
Yeah, and it wasn't exactly bad news.
It was not bad news.
Yeah.
So that was wonderful. And so, I always love that, the universe was telling me, well, the surprise is coming. You're going to get help. And I was just like, oh, I can't wait to find out what this is. So that's just... that was 2 stories I want to share you that happened to me personally. So just to recap, like I said, I really do think that's one of the best ways if you are a beginner and you want to learn more about your own intuition and how that intuitive voice is for you. Divination tools such as oracle cards or tarot cards is a good way for you to open that up. And like I said, the process is just make sure your intentions are in the right place and ask the right question.
It's not a parlor game. It's not something you do for fun when you're bored.
Yeah. And ask the right question, but use yourself as an experiment and journal, because then you're going to get that self-confidence and you're going to see everything that the cards were telling you at that time, and if they actually are accurate as you go. And I'll tell you, you're going to be surprised how accurate they are. And what else?
Well, maybe we should just say thank you to everybody and remind you that we are the dreamer and the mystic.
The mystic and the dreamer.
The mystic and the dreamer.
We're none of those.
Just kidding. And we actually obviously both. I mean, it's not like the mystic is me or Silla. It's 2 things that we share, and that's why we do these podcasts. And we are very, very pleased that you have listened to us, and we will be back soon.
Yeah. Thanks again for listening, everybody. And even though you already know that I do this for a living, if you want to ever have a personal card reading, just go to innerlighthealer.com. You'll find my website, and we can do that stuff there. Or if you have any questions about divination, you can also leave me a comment there as well. At our podcast, I will be gladly answer some questions.
Take care, and thank you so much.
All right, bye.
Bye.